Good morning, beautiful. I am so happy to start this day with you. Grab something cozy and let's get started. Welcome to Mornings with Kristen, your cozy corner for real conversations on motherhood, teaching, personal growth, and living life with intention. As a single mom, educator, and doctoral candidate, I know how overwhelming life can feel. But I also know that small moments of joy and encouragement make all the difference. Grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and join me for heartfelt chats that uplift, inspire, and remind you that you're doing better than you think. Our quote of the day is "Easy is the path to wisdom for those not blinded by themselves." This is another Clone Wars quote that can be traced back to two instances in the Star Wars animated series. The first is the beginning of Season 1, Episode 3, and the second it is said by Ahsoka Tano in Season 5, Episode 1. This quote suggests that achieving wisdom is straightforward for those who are open to learning and not clouded by their own biases or ego, while those who are self-absorbed or closed-minded will struggle to find it. That's a little harsh, but let's break it down further. So, easy is the path to wisdom. This implies that the journey towards wisdom is not inherently difficult or complex, but rather accessible to those who are receptive and open-minded. The next part of the quote says, "For those not blinded by themselves." This highlights the importance of self-awareness and humility. Those who are blinded by their own ego, pride, or preconceived notions will struggle to see the truth and therefore to achieve wisdom. In essence, the quote emphasizes that wisdom is within reach for those who are willing to look beyond their own limitations and embrace a genuine pursuit of knowledge and understanding. All right, guys, so let's have a chat today about our news sources and what we can do to balance out how we react to what we are receiving from the media sources around us. So, facts first. Recent research studying news seeking and emotional responses has found that more exposure to the latest headlines, whether through traditional news outlets or highlighted on social media, can undercut mental health. One study, which surveyed 2,251 adults in the spring of 2020, found that the more frequently people sought information about COVID-19 across various mediums, including television, newspapers, and social media, the more likely they were to report emotional distress. Another study conducted by Matthew Price, PhD, of the University of Vermont in Burlington, followed 61 young adults for 30 days and asked them to assess how they were getting their pandemic-related news each day, along with documenting any symptoms of depression or post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Price and his colleagues found an association between the amount of exposure to news on social media and more depression and PTSD symptoms. To help patients cope in a world where news is omnipresent, psychologists with media expertise advise practicing dietary media restriction and taking steps to better process and right-size the news in their personal life. To guard against patients becoming overwhelmed and developing a sense of learned helplessness. Along with propelling anger and anxiety, the constant news exposure seems to erode one's resilience, Stosny said. It lowers your coping capacity, so things that normally you'd cope with okay, you're not coping with at all. Providing broader context, including about relative risk, is particularly important when working with children, said Jacqueline Toner, PhD, a retired psychologist and author of the Imagination Press book, What to Do When the News Scares You, A Kid's Guide to Understanding Current Events. Parents may attempt to shield their children from scary news like a mass shooting or extreme weather, and thus the children may only hear about bits and pieces of what happened, which may result in frightening misconceptions, Toner said. We can ask open-ended questions from the start, gaining a better sense of what the child knows, including context. If the child is worried about news that might pose an ongoing risk, such as wildfires that periodically flare nearby, work with them to develop an action plan. What would they do? And who could help them in an emergency? Ask them to list all the people in their lives who could assist, not just family members, but also neighbors, teachers, and firefighters, Toner said. It demonstrates to the child that there is a larger safety net for them. One practice Stosny uses with his adult patients is to suggest they write down an anxiety-producing headline in longhand. This means by your hand, not just typing it into a computer or your phone. You got to write it out. The idea is to slow down the processing, hopefully moderating anxiety in the process. Anxious thoughts speed by, and the faster they go, the less realistic they get, Stosny said. If you slow down the process by writing them down, they're more realistic, and then you can assign a probability, how likely it is to happen. Uniformly, psychologists said that regardless of the patient's age, encourage them to be more active in issues they care about, rather than just a passive observer of the news. If a teen is fretting about the looming extinction of an animal, they can get involved in an organization trying to save it. Be part of the solution, which will bind your anxiety and will make you feel not so powerless or that the world is spinning off its axis, Grant said. Okay, so story time. There have been several times in the past 5 years or so that I have given into the fear-mongering of news. During COVID, I tracked the death tolls, the locations it was most active. I was stressed by the abundance of information as well as the government's decisions on how to handle the virus. I was frequently appalled at how some people were reacting to it and endangering others. In our current political chaos, it is difficult to distance yourself from what is happening. Families being torn apart, the government being dismantled from the inside, so many people losing their jobs, laws being enacted or abolished hurting so many. This turmoil can be daunting to move through. One might find themselves in a state of waking catatonia with the amount of dissonance being delivered daily. I sometimes find myself in argument with myself. I don't want to be a victim to the push and pull of the turbulence of the day. I want to block out the information and just live my life. I have a job to focus on, a family to take care of. But at the same time, being blind to what is happening, choosing ignorance, is not something I can do within my own moral bounds. When you close yourself off to the corruption around you and ignore historical precedents that is telling you where your world is heading, when you willingly put your own needs above the plight of others, all you do is help to perpetuate the system. Not doing something is the same as saying yes. It's like when a group of your friends is gossiping about someone. You don't agree with what they are doing, so you leave the conversation. You removed yourself, but did you do anything to actually help the situation? No. Did you allow it to continue? Yes. Did you allow it through your own self-preservation to continue to hurt another person? Absolutely. So even upon your removal from the situation, you are still responsible for it. You allowed it. You did nothing to protect that person you are a supposed friend to. You did a selfish thing. Now, guys, if you feel judged in this example, honestly, good. Maybe that will make you do something different next time. Now, remember, your feelings on this are not coming from me. I am just saying words that may give you a different perspective. Your feelings on this are coming from you. Maybe you should listen to them. Our news and the choices of those in powerful positions are like that group of friends. Sometimes we need to check each other in order to keep the world an honest place. But we also have to balance out that need with our own mental health. Keep abreast of the goings-on in the world without overwhelming yourself. It's about balance. Going to extremes, all in or all out, is not a healthy way to live life. It doesn't help your mental health or keep your civic responsibilities in alignment. I have some things you can do to help yourself here. So here are some actions for you. To balance news consumption in daily life, set boundaries around your news intake. Focus on what you can control, and prioritize your mental well-being by limiting exposure to triggering content and practicing stress-reducing activities. Let's break this down further. Number 1, set boundaries and limit news consumption. One way you can do this is designate specific times. Allocate a certain amount of time each day to catch up on news rather than constantly checking it. Another way is avoid starting or ending your day with news. This can lead to a negative mindset throughout the day or keep you up at night. Unfollow or mute triggering accounts is another way you can do this. If certain social media accounts or news sources consistently cause you stress, consider unfollowing or muting them. Another way is you can uninstall those apps from your phone. If you find yourself constantly checking news apps, consider uninstalling them to reduce the temptation of doom scrolling. Number 2, focus on what you can control. One way is identify your personal boundaries. Determine what news topics or events are particularly triggering for you and limit your exposure to them. Take action. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by events you can't control, focus on taking small steps to make a positive difference in your own life. Another way is notice positive things. Make an effort to acknowledge the good things in your life and the world around you. Sometimes this can be hard, but it's an important part of what you do every day. Another is make a list. Make a list of the things you can change and the things you can't to help you focus your thoughts. Okay, and step number 3, prioritize mental well-being. One way you can do this is practice stress management. Engage in activities that help you relax and de-stress, such as exercise, meditation, or spending time in nature. Another is seek support. Talk to friends, family, or a therapist about your feelings and concerns related to the news. Another is engage in activities you enjoy. Make time for hobbies and activities that bring you joy and help you unwind. Another, focus on factual content. Instead of opinions, focus on factual content, even though the facts may still be difficult. And don't look to only one news source. It's been noted time and again that the East Coast is getting different news from the West Coast here in the States. It's all about how you spin the news, what they focus on, and what they don't report. Challenge yourself to listen to a news network that doesn't agree with your personal stance. Do it with an open mind and willingness to try to understand the other side of the argument. You may leave with the same convictions, but at least you have a more nuanced view of them and others now. Sometimes it could calm you down to understand why the other side is the way it is. The unknown is the scariest thing you can encounter. So becoming knowledgeable about all sides is important to controlling the fear that you are building inside you. Another is seeking out positive news stories. Seek out some positive or uplifting news stories, or scroll social media feeds that make you feel good. Curating your feed is an important step to balancing your mental load. Every month, I do a purge on who I follow on my social media accounts. If they are not serving things that uplift or inform in a way that allows my consumption to be an experience I desire, they gotta go. I have 2 news sources I trust to give me the facts or do so in a way that doesn't cause turmoil in my mind. I like doing research, so of course these aren't my only 2 sources of information when it comes to the current climate. But they are the ones I reach for the most and the ones I feel I can reliably go to for the balance I need to know what is going on without sabotaging my mental health. The first is an email subscription service called The Pour Over. I enjoy this news outlet because 1, it lands in my email and is easy to find. And 2, it has a Christian spin to the information that helps me have a hopeful perspective even during troubling subjects. I also think it's pretty cool that they have a kids version that comes out once a week called The Decaf. The Pour Over calls himself a politically neutral news source, and I will admit that I have found that to be true. My second news source I want to share with you and strongly suggest is Unbiased Politics. It's a podcast that comes out several times a week, and she shares very well-researched, unbiased news on the political climate and legal news. The host is a lawyer who worked in the field for many years, and during COVID turned to podcasting as a way of sharing the news she wished that she had. Straightforward, No frills, no lies, no spinning, no opinions, just the facts. I appreciate the factual sharing of information she imparts and how she does so without her own opinion holding sway. I have listened to her for many months and couldn't possibly tell you which way she leans on any topic. You get to make your own decisions and think for yourself when listening to her. I'll share information on both of those sources in my show notes. And no, I am not sponsored or affiliated with either one. I truly do use them as a source of news and genuinely want to share them with you. All right, beauty, thank you so much for your time this morning. I am so glad to have spent it with you. Please be so kind as to like and subscribe here and on Instagram. My handle on Insta is Mornings with Kristen, all one word, Mornings with Kristen. Kristen is spelled Chrisisten. Leave a comment. I would love to hear your ideas for future episodes. Also, please leave a review on whatever platform you are listening on, and don't forget to download. I also hope you know how incredibly loved you are by God, because you are. Psalm 23 lets us know that Jesus left the 99 to find the one who was lost. He is seeking after your heart, and if you are feeling lost or alone, please know He is always with you. I'm Episcopalian, and I know the Episcopal Church welcomes everyone to God's table. It doesn't matter your background, sexual preference, or orientation, or your marital status. If you need a faith center, the Episcopal Church is waiting to welcome you home. God loves you just as you are. My wish for you is to face your day knowing you are smart, strong, gorgeous, and more than capable of handling what this day brings. I believe in you, and I'm rooting for you. You've got this. See you next time.